My name is Jane McKinnon, and I'm in the class of 1965, and I'm from Sacramento, California. I was thinking about that today because two of the women that are responsible for me going to VBS were at this meeting today, and I haven't seen them for decades. But their family, their name was Wiles, their last name was Wiles, and their family moved in across the street from where I lived in Sacramento, and their parents got to be friends with my parents, and all of their children were going to Verde Valley. So as the parents talked, and as I was doing less well at Sacramento High School because of some really poor teachers for a period there, my parents decided to look into Verde Valley, and so I applied and was accepted, and it did change my life. It took me out of Sacramento, where I lived in a very homogeneous neighborhood, and always had, and introduced me to all kinds of people and ideas. I remember very well coming into, I drove there with my parents, and we stayed, the night before I went to Verde Valley, we stayed in Sedona at this motel, and there was a storm, and I remember seeing the lightning hitting the red buttes behind the motel, and the rain, and it just seemed magical. Just as soon as we came into the Oak Creek Canyon, it was like nothing I had ever seen. I mean, you really had a sense that this was a different place. So that was the first thing I remember about being near Verde Valley. And then the next day we went into the school and got settled. But I just remember being stunned by the country there. I think the place on campus that I most resonated with was the chapel, and I enjoyed going there sometimes just to be alone and to be quiet, and that spectacular view of cathedral out the front window. I just thought it was the most remarkable place in the world. And then I enjoyed going to we would have chapel every Sunday, and once again, I was saying that they had speakers from all different religions and philosophies, and that just opened up the world for me. I was raised Presbyterian in Sacramento, and everybody I knew lived in the same neighborhood and was the same economic class, and had the same philosophy. I remember one night I was sitting with my roommate after lights out, and we were putting curlers in our hair, which that dates us, I think, but we were after hours putting curlers in our hair in the dark, and I asked her what religion she was, and she said, "I'm agnostic." And I said, "What does that mean?" And she said, "It means I don't know if there is a God or not." And I remember just being stunned, like, that's a choice? I mean, I had no idea. I had never heard of anything like that. And so that shows how basic the changes in my thinking were. They're just like, I had never questioned how I had been raised. And so it was just tremendous to go and be introduced to all these new ways of thinking. Yes, I think VBS influenced me by making me really feel a part of the world, a part of the human community, and I feel that whenever we have a gathering, that the people that I knew there it's unusual when you get out in the world. For example, we were talking today that that if there's anything to be done, everybody helps. I mean, so do you need the table set? Do you want somebody to help you move furniture, whatever it is? And when you get out in the world, you find in groups somebody will say, do we have volunteers for this? And nobody volunteers. So it's exceptional that all Verde Valley people just jump right in and help, and they don't here the cooks and one of the graduates who's a server, he was saying he was working in San Francisco as a server, and because of Verde Valley you see all these jobs and all the people, like everybody's in the world trying to live, trying to get along, and you view them all on the same level. Don't you say, well, this man's the head of the school and this man's the server. There's just not that feeling. It's like everybody has their place and their job and what they do well at. While I was at Verde Valley, I know I felt that there were people who gave me support, and Joyce Salzman was my counselor or advisor, I don't know what we called her, but she supported me as I went through my probably struggles of my teenage years, and also Maggie Perkins was very, very helpful, and I don't know that I was always so cooperative just because of the age, and but I was learning a lot and I was taking in a lot, and as I said, when I look back on it, I see it as being a very good experience, and and probably my best friends that I have still today go back to the people I knew at Verde Valley, people in my class, and we stay in contact. So that's remarkable that you have such good friends from high school. I was at Verde Valley for 2 years. I came in my junior year, and so I did junior and senior. And so the first year I went to the Navajo Indian Reservation to Dilcon, Arizona, and I stayed at a boarding school on the Navajo Reservation, and that was for, I don't know, a week or two, and that was a very good experience. It was extremely interesting just to see what an American Indian boarding school was like. So that was an eye-opener, and that we had reservations. And the other field trip was to Mexico, and I was in Tasco living in a family, and it was very good that they required us all to learn Spanish at Verde Valley so that we could go on these field trips, and so being suddenly immersed in a family who spoke no English was an amazing experience, and took me from just learning Spanish to being forced to use it, and so having no qualms after that, knowing that you could learn a foreign language and use it. I think that's a very valuable experience. I think every American should have that experience. Anyway, yeah, and it was just good to be in another culture, to go to another culture and learn that they don't think about the United States all the time and wish they were Americans. They're very happy being in their own culture and in their own country. So the arguments that we hear now on television just make no sense whatsoever. Anyway, all of this I owe to Verde Valley. I think if I could meet myself before I went to Verde Valley, I would tell myself to just relax, because I think when I went there, everything was so different, and all the students were, they were used to discussing things, and you know, for example, discussing symbolism in a, in a story. And before I went to Verde Valley, I had never done a term paper. We didn't have to do them at Sacramento High School, and so I was terrified the whole time that somebody was going to find out that I should not be at Verde Valley. And as it happened, you know, I was pretty much at the same levels. There were some skills I didn't have, which I picked up during the first year. But I remember just being so nervous that first year that I was not going to come up to par. So I would just tell myself, relax, everyone goes through experiences, things will be fine.